From the Channel Seed Studios, welcome to The Hook. A look behind the lines with Mike Palm and Ken Miller. Powered by Circa Sports Iowa. Sports betting the way it should be. This is Iowa Everywhere.
Channel Seed. Seedsmanship at work.
And hello again, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hook. My name is Ken Miller, who, along with Trent Condon, are part of KXNO 11 to 1 on Des Moines Sports Station, 106.3 KXNO. Mike Palm from Circa Sports, who is the Vice President of Operations. Mike and I are a couple of doors down from each other on the lakefront at the beautiful Drake Hotel in downtown Chicago, just off the Magnificent Mile. Got such a great city, Mike Palm. Probably my favorite big city in the world. I've been to, a lot of them in the States, but this one to me is, I just love Chicago. I know you do as well.
Yeah, it's my favorite city as well. And I spent six years here when I was in Northwest Indiana. So, I consider it Chicagoland.
Yeah.
When I ran the poke room with Showboat and then Harrods in East Chicago. And then growing up, obviously in Dubuque, you're 3.5 hours away to come to Chicago several times every year. And we'd always venture over for Cub games and down to St. Louis to see when the Cubs came to play the Cardinals in St. Louis as well.
I guess I never asked this before, and apologies for my Canadian going to show here. How far is South Bend from Chicago?
It's only 50 minutes by train. So as freshman and sophomore at Notre Dame, you're not allowed to have a car. Now, you just get around it, but you couldn't register it or park it on campus or anything like that. So I didn't get a car till junior, and I would take the train into Chicago all the time because my friend, one of my best friends from high school, was attending Loyola. So I'd come into Chicago and we'd hang out in Chicago on the weekends. He's now a professor at the University of Iowa.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, we are here, of course, Northwestern going to host Iowa tomorrow at Wrigley Field. A lot of Hawkeye fans, a lot of black and gold at the airport. Even yesterday when I got in and seeing more in the hotel lobby down at Merkel's where we were set up earlier today. Mike, the number came out. I think it was 29.5, the total on the game. I know that very early in the week when we spoke, you said that's just a bad number. There's no way that this is going to stay there. You expect there's going to be some points scored in this game tomorrow, don't you?
It's leveled out. I don't know when you get to tomorrow, and I think it's going to be nice weather. Kenny, I know you're going back home tomorrow morning, but we'll be at the game, or we'll be at least across the street on the rooftops.
Yeah.
The weather should be decent. I think 53, 54 degrees, no real high winds. I thought we opened this 29.5 as a marketing ploy. Obviously, it got out there as the lowest total in the history of college. And it got picked up by a lot of spots that had never used the word Circa Sports in a sentence before.
That's good.
Now, it's only moved 1.5. I bet it at 30. I bet it at 30.5. I bet it again at 31. I'm probably get some more at 31 tomorrow. I just don't think these two, you're going to stop them from scoring. I mean, you look at the Northwestern games, they're playing in the 60s, a lot of these games. They started out the season on that Sunday at Rutgers, looked like they might never score a touchdown all year. They were lost, but Fitzgerald's news came very late, and you threw a DC into a new DC into a role as a head coach. They've come a long way. I mean, they beat Maryland last week. They rallied to beat Minnesota. I look at the common opponent. Iowa scored 22 points in Minnesota. They were in the 60s again. I think both teams can score tomorrow. And so I just think that number's too low.
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, Mike, Dave Brown, is not going to win Coach of the Year in the Big Ten, but he should get some consideration, don't you think? For what you just said, where this team was, it happened very late with Fitz. He came over to be the defensive coordinator from Fargo, North Dakota State, of all places, and anoint him as the head coach because he was the only one on staff that wasn't part of what had gone on there in the past. I watched the game last week against Maryland. I was surprised. I really was. Northwestern's got a little bit of a pulse. Do you have an opinion on the game overall?
I think
Iowa should win, shouldn't they?
They should, but I'm not laying 5 points on the road with this team. I look at Northwestern too, and they were up 7 in the second half with the ball and plus territory, and they were still plus money against Maryland. I never took advantage of it, but on the end there, I think they ran. How many plays did they run from inside the 10-yard line in the fourth quarter? I mean, they ran a ton, 15, 16 plays. I mean, the score even really wasn't that close. If they could have scored the touchdown, they had a lot of opportunities at it. And it was pretty amazing. So I think the game will be competitive. And the good thing about almost every game in the Big Ten West has title implications, right?
It
For that,
does, yeah.
that division. So
No, there's no doubt about that. Matt Rule's got Nebraska playing very well. We'll see where they'll finish up. Of course, we know where they'll finish up regular season. They will host the Hawks. Let's go to Ames, where Iowa State has been a remarkable turnaround, quite honestly, since Ohio, where a lot of people thought that this team was just languishing and was on their way to a 3-9, a 4-8 type of season. And all of a sudden, with the month of November in front of them, they've got a realistic chance to get bowl eligibility, including, or soon rather, as tomorrow night when they host the Jayhawks. I had Chris on the radio today, Chris Williams. It's his take, it was mine as well. And I heard you say it earlier. I just can't see how this Kansas team can get up as emotionally as they were when they hosted Oklahoma for the final time. Oklahoma's at the time, the leader of the Big 12. Fan base was going bonkers. Subsequently would take the goalposts out of the stadium and throw them in the water. This team can't get that up again, I don't think, for a game tomorrow night in front of a sold-out Jack Trice Stadium.
it's always tough in the evening at Ames there. And then they just played their Super Bowl. So they tore the goalpost down, threw them in the river. I mean, Gabriel was almost as if he couldn't pass the ball. What did they have, 14 passing attempts? He couldn't grip the ball.
Very few. Yeah.
It was strange. And they had a chance with one first down to run out the clock, and they just ran into the line 3 times and punted, and Kansas was able to come down. Strange, but I think it's a really tough spot for Kansas. I like Iowa State tomorrow night. Somehow, I don't know, they've got to beat Texas. I keep trying to figure out a way for them, but they can't win the tie. I don't, they lose to Oklahoma. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
If they're 2 losses, they lose the tiebreaker to Oklahoma, and they still have Kansas State's a very good team. I would not be shocked if they beat Texas tomorrow. The weakness of Kansas State is the secondary. You can throw over the top. I don't think Texas with that kid is going to try to throw the ball over. That's not how they're going to operate the game. Nope. I think that's going to be a close game. I also think that's going to be a low-scoring game there with Texas mostly focused on running the football, and I think they have to be on upset alert in Austin tomorrow.
Yeah, I took the points, willingly took the points. What, it opened at 6, I think. It came down, might be 3.5, 4 right now. 3.5 right now. So, yeah, I took the points in that football game, and I'm with you. Look, Oklahoma State can help Iowa State tomorrow night by knocking off Oklahoma in what might be the final edition of Bedlam, right? I mean, Bedlam, it's one of those rivalries that's going to go away. Oklahoma State has to have a distinct advantage, don't they? It's in Stillwater. It's their arch rival. It's their arch rival who is running away from the conference and leaving them at the time thought high and dry. Now it's worked out very well for the Big 12. But do you like Oklahoma State or do you like Oklahoma tomorrow?
I lean Oklahoma State. It's been nasty in the press this week with the kid that transferred, calling out Gundy, saying he's not a nice guy and this and that. Oklahoma State, I'm telling you, there's some programs, and you have to include Iowa State in there. I tell you that from 6 weeks ago to now, it's remarkable how different the teams are. Arizona's another one. Yep. But I left Oklahoma State for dead when they lost to South Alabama at home. They're playing great ball, covered 3 games in a row on the road, and then dominated at home last week. I give the advantage to Oklahoma State here.
Yeah, I remember Trent and I had the conversation probably 4 or 6 weeks ago talking about the new Big 12. And we talked about the 2 Arizona schools that, boy, they're going to languish and struggle for a while, but based on what we're seeing this year. But both of those schools, even Arizona State, is playing very well. A couple more in the college ranks. LSU and Alabama tomorrow night. SEC West title probably going to be decided in that football game tomorrow. Daniel's a hell of an athlete. Milroe for the Crimson Tide really coming into his own a little bit. Do you have an opinion on that game, LSU Alabama?
Yeah, I played it over 61.5. LSU's 8-0 to the over, Ken, and they're averaging going over by 11 points a game. I mean, and I had them against Mississippi, and they could never stop Mississippi. It was just, who was going to punt twice or get stopped on 4th down, because otherwise it was touchdown, 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 touchdown. They got behind, but then they took advantage of the halftime change and had a spot where they were covering actually in the game. I think both teams are going to score points. I think Milroe's been better since they benched him for that game, and he's come back. Mm-hmm. But I don't think anybody's stopping LSU either. A lot of people love LSU in this spot. That they think they're going to win, and they're going to propel themselves to an SEC title. I mean, they got a lot of things to take care of, but at over 100-1 to win the national championship, I know people are out there sticking their toe in the water.
Yeah, my partner included. Trent's got him at 150-1. So we'll see. One more college game, Pac-12 game. Washington headed to the Coliseum to take on USC. Washington has not played well of late. I don't know what it is. Maybe they're just bored. They won't be tomorrow, obviously, going on the road to an environment like that. I took Washington and laid the 3. Penix in that offense against the putrid, and they are, defensive USC. I laid the 3 and took the Huskies. Am I on the right side?
I'm an underplayer, Kenny, and I bet this over 77.5. I mean, another one. Don't you think Washington's going to score 50 tomorrow?
I do. Yep.
I do too, but I think USC will score in the 30s or 40s.
Yep.
I think it's another game in the 90s. I played 3 overs, which I don't know if there's been a week I played 3 overs in college football in a long time. I played 1 game other than the Mississippi State game, but a lot of overs for me. It's a little concerning, but I just don't. Where are the stops? They should have lost to Cal again. They should have lost to Arizona. Mm-hmm. They're just a horrific defensive team. I mean,
this is 45-43, something like that. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll see. Let's move over to the NFL, and then we'll do a couple of other spots. This is a good weekend, the NFL. I like both of the primetime games, obviously Sunday night with Bills and Bengals. But I want to start my favorite division, and it's always been, and I'm not sure why, the NFC East. And the 2 leaders of that division, the Eagles, will host the Cowboys. I was impressed by the Cowboys coming off their bye. Dak Prescott, depends which Sunday you watch him or whenever, Monday or Thursday. Your opinion on Dak Prescott can change throughout the year. Last week, he was phenomenal. Can they give the Eagles a game? I think they will.
It's interesting. They're a feast or famine team. I mean, I think if they get to the lead, they're really tough. But can they get to a lead? Philly, I thought, was ripe for an upset last week. The Commanders always play them tough, and I kind of feel you got a bad push if you took 7 in that game. Washington led most of the way. We'll see. I'm staying away from it. The interesting thing there is, no one's repeated in that division in 20-some years, and Philly won it last year. So what the history tells you, the Cowboys got to beat them probably twice this year if they're going to win the division.
Yeah.
Philly has a tough stretch of games here, so they've got to beat them at least once. I'll stay away from it. Yeah, the slate is good. I mean, I like Seattle, Baltimore in the early window too. I think we'll find out how good the Seahawks team is, and then a terrific game Sunday night. I asked this question on the radio this week: who's the best team in the AFC? You could probably make arguments for 4 or 5 different teams right now. Cincinnati, one of them. I answered Baltimore.
Did you? Yeah.
I thought the win over the Lions, that looked like they were playing a high school team when they're healthy, and Lamar's playing at an MVP level. I'm not with the Mahomes vote here. I think Lamar should get some votes for MVP, but I think it's probably Baltimore. You can make the argument for Cincinnati. You could make the argument for Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. And of course, Kansas City's still the defending champs, and you have an excuse, and Mahomes was sick last week, but I'm still trying to figure out, was Denver as bad as they were or as good as they've been, or where's Peyton going with this team the last half of the season?
You know what, Mike? I'm a Broncos fan, so I watch him every week. And there was a point in the season a couple of weeks ago I was hoping they'd lose out. We'd get Drake May or Caleb Williams or even Michael Penix, who I like. But you're right. The defense is coming on. Russell Wilson, he's not hurting the team. He did last year. They're putting Russell Wilson in better spots offensively. He's running around. He lost a ton of weight in the offseason, so he's trying to get that running game back. We had Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, on Wednesday, obviously before anybody got sick on Saturday. He never says, has an opinion when it's a bad opinion. He thought that the Chiefs were poised to go in there and get picked off by the Broncos. And said as much. He could see a letdown coming in before they go to Germany. We'll touch on that game in a second, but he saw it coming.
Yeah. So I think the biggest improvement has been defensively, obviously, for Denver. Yeah. They go from giving up 70 points a game and 30. They gave up 33 to the Commanders in 31 minutes in that stretch in that game. And So that's been, you're talking about Frankfurt, and it's a shame because a lot of people won't see that game.
Mhm.
And it
In the
could be
Pacific time zone. Yeah.
it could be a 6:30 kick. That's
Right.
early.
Yeah. We talked about.
Although you gain the hour this week, so you're not,
Oh, that's
you
fair.
get the
Yeah.
hour of sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Never thought of that. So as we talked about at one point earlier in the week, if this would have been the standalone Sunday game, if it would have been the Dolphins and the Chiefs on Sunday night, I mean, that would have a chance, I would think, to maybe be the most bet on single game of the year. Maybe. I mean, not the
Well,
Super Bowl, regular season talking.
I'd make the argument if Philadelphia and Dallas was the Sunday night game, you might get that. So far, the biggest bet on game has been San Francisco and Dallas.
Yeah.
Which wasn't much of a game.
Mm-hmm.
I would take and say that Philly, Dallas, if you gave them each the same spot on Sunday night, would it do more of a right than Kansas City, Miami? You can never underestimate the national pull of Dallas. Dallas is a little bit like Notre Dame. There's like support for them in every pocket and every community in the country, right? No matter where you go, it's really, I would say if you averaged out over the course of the year of all the people that came through, circa the D and the Golden Gate, who we had the most fans of come through. You could say the Raiders because they're the home team, but it's not California teams. It's probably the Dallas Cowboys.
Isn't that something?
In the NFL. And I continue to say that burnt orange of Texas continues to surprise me how many of those folks you have, especially at circa on a weekly basis when Texas is playing. They like that Alabama-Texas game. That was 3/4 Texas people.
Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
Is there another school that travels to Vegas, similarly to the way the Longhorns do?
They're there on odd weeks. Somebody asked me, because they found out I was going to the game. Well, Iowa traveled to Wrigley. I said, well, Iowa travel. I mean, the argument, the best two bowl traveling teams are Iowa and Wisconsin every year. They bring the most people. Of course, that's, late December, early January when it's just they're frozen places. But those two fan bases, Wisconsin and the University of Iowa, bowls always go for those teams because they know they're going to bring a ton of people and a lot of money to the local economy.
Yeah, that's for sure. Conversely, in the NFL, got to be the Cowboys, the Packers, and the Steelers.
Steelers and Packers and Chiefs. And now that's a division rival.
Chiefs too. Okay.
Because of the division rival. But when those are the three biggest fan base travels for Raiders games.
Yeah. Packers
came on that Monday night. So we had the Packers from Friday through Tuesday, the Packer folks. And
perfect.
They're in their same jersey the whole weekend. Packers, and the Steelers took over the town. And then the Chiefs, I'm telling you, Stadium Swim is it looks like Christmas when the Chiefs come and play. It's all people in red.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
The calendar is now November. Speaking of Stadium Swim, is it slowing down at all?
Well, we go into our winter season now next week, meaning Monday through Friday, we just have the upper deck. We don't have it all. We have the whole thing open. So it is, the weather's still pretty nice, Kenny. I mean, we're still in the 70s in the daytime. It kind of gets around Thanksgiving, it starts the turn down comes.
Yeah, I could see that. Super Bowl's in Las Vegas. I don't have to remind you of that. How close are you to being?
We're getting close to F1 here.
Yeah, I know. That's a disaster. We'll save that for another day. But are you sold out already for the Super Bowl?
No, but we're
not.
Close. I think we hold certain rooms for people, right? That that are gonna make their decisions once they know who's playing. So we try to hold about 12 to 14% of the rooms for the people that will book after Championship Sunday.
That's probably a good way of going at it. Do you have an NFL play tomorrow? Did you play anything? Or for Sunday, rather?
Yeah. I played the Colts over. Colts and Panthers over. These Colts, I think, what are the Colts? 6-2 to the over. And it's going over by 13 points again. I mean, the defense, they're in a boom or bust team, and with Minshew, he takes a lot of chances. So he's going to score for you and score for him. And I think maybe a little confidence from Carolina getting their first win and cover last week. So I played that game over a low 40s total. That's the only NFL play so far.
Yeah, you know what? I don't, from a betting perspective, I love the kid from a competition perspective, but from a betting perspective, I really had trouble zeroing in on a game for our little head-to-head with Condon that we do. I took the Monday nighter. I went with the Chargers. Are you shocked?
Yeah.
Over the Jets. And then I think my other play was who plays Houston? Oh, Tampa. Tampa plays Houston. And so I took Tampa Bay in that one. Baseball, your futures are up for next year. Did you see when you posted next year's futures for the World Series, did you see any plays? I mean, sharps don't come in right away for those, do they? They wait.
No, they wait. I made some notes here because the Braves should be the favorite, and it's at 7-1. I'd like to take the no price on the Dodgers +8 for they got a long one. Kershaw just had surgery.
Just saw that, yeah.
They're a long way off. I'm sorry. They're a whole starting staff away. Who knows with Urias and I don't know. Mm-hmm. And then they're all them young kids. I was surprised the Orioles were the third choice, +1050. And then there's 4 teams. Your defending champ, the Rangers, Mariners, Astros, and Yankees, all 12-1. Phillies 15-1. So no, I'm not going to get involved. Other than I thought the Dodgers and Orioles were too short.
Yeah, Padres. What are they? Do you have that in the teens?
I didn't. We have our meeting if we're going to renew with them coming up here at the end of the month, I believe. And then they have some folks out because the winter meetings are in Las Vegas this year, December 3rd. So maybe we'll run into a bunch of baseball executives at Circa that week.
Yeah, I would anticipate that you probably will. Where are they in Vegas?
Did you see the story in The Athletic that they borrowed money to meet payroll this year?
Yes, $50 million. Do you believe that?
I was shocked.
Yeah, I was shocked too. We shall see. Well, enjoy the rooftops at Wrigley Field. You've never seen a ball game from up there, have you?
Not from the rooftops. No, yeah. I probably watched 40 games from Wrigley Field in my life. I've never seen one from the rooftops. So,
yeah, I've seen 2 of them up there: a playoff game and a regular season game. The thing that I don't like is from the warning track to the wall, you lose sight of everything. Now, where you're sitting tomorrow, you've got great seats because most of the rooftops, it's obstructed view. You guys will have no problem from where you are. I think Trent said you're 600 feet away from home plate, from whatever that means. Of course, there's going to be no home plate in the field, but just to get a perspective of where you're at. Good to see you in person. Thank you for doing this. Thank you to Brock for filling in for our buddy Aiden Wyatt. We shall see if both of the in-state teams can come out with a W tomorrow. Iowa State moves to bowl eligible. Iowa move another step forward to Indianapolis in a Big Ten championship. That's going to do it for Mike Palm. I'm Ken Miller. We'll see you next time for The Hook, sponsored by our friends at Circa Sports. Download the app, Circa Sports Iowa. We'll see you next week.